Master.
Hi everyone, Sneemaster here with a review of the Drake Cutter line. This review will cover all three Drake Cutter variants. The Drake Cutter was released in 2022 for the IAE show. It's an efficient starter ship with a bed, bathroom, and cargo storage. Two variants were released later, the Scout for pathfinding and the Rambler for long-range trips. All variants are 20 meters long, 16 meters wide, and 6 meters high. All variants have different spoilers at the back of the ships and different items on the top of the ship. The Scout has a large radar on top, while the Rambler has extra fuel tanks on the roof, and the base cutter has nothing on top. All variants have a cockpit for one pilot in the front with decent visibility. There are 3 MFDs and a basic radar. You can also activate side armored windows for a little extra pilot protection, although it's not very useful right now until armor gameplay is introduced. The cockpit has some ship components on the left side and small gun rack on the right. The difference between the variants is in the rest of the ship though. The base cutter and cutter scout have living quarters with a bed, bathroom, a location to access your inventory, and then a spot for the fire extinguisher. These two variants have inventory storage for 930k micro SCU, so almost a whole SCU. The Cutter Rambler has an enlarged living area with a bed, bathroom, inventory access, but also includes a kitchen for processing basic food, a table, and a bench for eating or other activities. The Rambler also has a storage closet in this section with gear stowage of 4000k micro SCU. That's 4 SCU just in gear alone. In the rear of the ships you have the cargo bay. The base cutter has space for 4 SCU of cargo and access to various ship components. The Scout loses some cargo space to hold an engineering section with controls for the radar and scanning, although the scanning doesn't work from this section yet. This leaves it with only 2 SCU of cargo storage, but you can still hold the same size vehicles. The Rambler has a much smaller cargo bay and can barely hold 2 SCU in this section as well. The base cutter and scout can carry some small ground vehicles like the Greycat STV, the Greycat PTV, and all the hover vehicles. It is a tight squeeze for any vehicle in the cargo bay aside from the PTV or the Marine Pulse though. The STV needs to be backed in to really access it well. Vehicles like the Tumbril, Cyclone, Greycat Rock, or Drake Mule are just too large. The Rambler has an even smaller cargo bay and can only hold the Pulse, the X1, the Nox, or the PTV, barely. The cutter variants all have one single S1 shield. It makes up for the small shield protection by having more hull and armor strength than similar starter ships. The hull strength is about double the hull of the CNOU Nomad and quite a bit more than the average Titan. The Cutter Scout has slightly more health than the other variants. The Cutter and Rambler have size 1 radars while the Scout has a size 2 radar. The size 2 radar on the Scout can detect and scan targets much further out, and in the future, the engineering computers in the rear of the Scout will be used to take advantage of this larger radar system. Right now the computers are more for engineering purposes such as viewing power levels, health, and shields though. The Cutter and Scout have 2 size 100 and fuel tanks and 2 size 1 quantum fuel tanks, while the Cutter Rambler has 3 size 100 and fuel tanks and 3 size 1 quantum fuel tanks. The Cutter variants can all travel quite a while before refueling, but the Rambler can travel much further than the other two. They all have a size 1 quantum drive, which is not very fast, but it is very efficient, so it takes advantage of those extra fuel tanks. The SCM speed for all variants is 180 meters a second, and the max speed is 1010 meters a second, which is not very fast compared to fighters or many starter ships. It's more the speed of cargo ships instead. The cutters are not very maneuverable either due to all the armor and hull strength. They turn worse than any other starter ship, or even the Cutlass Black. Their turn rate and combat speed is about the same as a Freelancer, which is a medium cargo ship, but cutters are a much smaller ship, so it's losing out a bit. The cutter variants all have VTOL engines in the back to help take off and land in heavy gravity situations. The engines all look slightly different for each variant though, which is interesting. For weapons, the cutter series all have size 2 gun hardpoints just under the nose. The guns are size 2 laser repeaters with manual gimbal ability. Unfortunately, with auto gimbals removed in the latest patches and the slow turning ability, the cutter series can struggle to hit fast targets. Also, having only 2 size 2 guns means it doesn't do a lot of damage to enemy ships. The guns are very good against ground targets though, since ground targets can't dodge as quickly or have heavy shields. The cutters also have 2 size 2 missile hardpoints under the belly of the ship with missile bay doors. The Cutter and Rambler come with dual size 1 missiles in each slot, while the Scout has 2 single size 2 missiles for each position. These missiles are not very powerful, nor very numerous, but can be used to help knock down shields on small ships. The missiles are also decent against ground targets. The 2 missile launchers can be switched between dual size 1 missiles or single size 2 missiles in any combination. The base cutter runs for $45, while the Scout and Rambler are $50, although the Scout and Rambler are limited time sales. You can buy the cutter variants at the New Deal shop at Lorville, with the base cutter going for 635,000 credits. The Scout is 705,000 credits, and the Rambler is 740,000 credits. The cutter variants all have a ton of paints available. The base cutter is gray with yellow accents, the Scout is tan and gray with red accents, and the Rambler is a shinier metal with yellow highlights. Concierge can buy the Nightfall paint that is dark gray with sea green accents, as well as the beige Cliffhanger paint and the olive and orange Groundswell paint. Subscribers, on the other hand, can buy the red and white Hosanna paint, the white and blue Aspire paint, or the orange and red Central Tower paint. For everyone, you can also buy the green and white Cayman paint, the gray and white Carnival paint, the yellow and gray Light Beam paint, the shiny and silver Noble paint, the gray, white, and yellow Pyrite paint, the gray and orange Rockslide paint, the tan and orange Tectonic paint, and the white and gray Wind Chill paint. For a limited time, you can also buy the ghoulish green paint during the Day of the Vara event. Backers during the Luminalia 2953 event got the white and shiny blue Icebreak paint and the pale green and red Deck the Hull paint for free. Those backers that participate in the Foundation Festival event can get the Foundation Festival paint for the Cutter series, that is sea green and silver. The Cutter series is designed for players starting out that need a durable, long-range single-player ship. It can travel far, but it doesn't have any frills. The fuel tanks are much larger than many ships its size, and combined with the bathroom and bed, the Cutter ships are the most long-range starter ships around. Even the Aurora and Avenger don't have bathrooms, and the fuel tanks are larger than the Origin 100 series or Nomad. There are only 2 size 2 guns and the 2 small missile launchers, but that's a little better than starters like the Aurora or Mustang. The 2 newer variants give you options for either scouting or traveling very long distances in relative comfort. As small ships, they also don't have very large EM or IR emissions as larger ships, so they are better at sneaking around. You can also use the cutters as mini gunships against small ground targets or infantry. The guns and missiles work well enough in this case, and as long as the enemies don't have missiles or heavy guns, you can use the cutters to clear landing zones or potential salvage spots. For drawbacks, the slow maneuverability means these ships are not great for combat. You won't be able to dodge enemy fire very well, and the single shield will not hold up against enemy weapon fire, so you're stuck relying on the hull and armor to save you. The ships can take a beating, which might be useful in dangerous places, but keep in mind the single small shield won't hold up to Pyro's solar bursts, so your ship may get hit by EMP effects or damage when traveling in Pyro. The cutter variants also cannot hold many types of ground vehicles, but thankfully CIG released the Mirai Pulse recently, which allows these ships to have a quick transport for the pilot when on the ground. The weak guns and lack of maneuverability make these ships poor at combat, but they can take down small ships with a bit of work and surprise. Another problem is the headlights on the cutter variants are so weak. Even ground vehicles have stronger lights than the cutters. Hopefully CIG improves these lights soon. On top of that, the ships all have lots of little lights all around the ship, which makes the ship stand out in the darkness. It looks nice, but it's not great for stealth, and there's no way to turn off the external lights yet. Each variant has its own benefits and drawbacks. The base cutter is great for carrying a little cargo or small vehicles, and it has a decent range to get around. You can use it for the new 3.24 cargo missions, but you might have to make multiple trips to carry everything. The fact it can carry small vehicles makes it great for personal exploration, better than other variants because it has more space for them. Because of these features, it's a good all-around starter ship with no strong drawbacks, only lacking the extra fuel tanks or radar from the variants. The Scout variant is especially good at finding mineral deposits and salvage targets for yourself or for orgs, while being small enough to not get detected easily. The long-range fuel tanks compared to other small ships this size help the Scout in exploring long distances. Orgs could use the Scout for salvage, mining, or piracy. The engineering section in the back is set up a bit strangely as there is no seat or bed for a second person, so the pilot would have to run to the back of the ship and use the computer from there when they want to do in-depth scans, potentially putting the ship at risk. The larger radar gives the Scout slightly larger EM and IR emissions than other variants, so you could be noticed from a farther distance, but it's not too much of an increase. The size 2 missiles on the Scout pack a larger punch than size 1 missiles, and with the larger radar you can hit targets farther away, but you only have 2 missiles instead of 4, so make sure your missiles hit. The Rambler variant has amazing fuel tanks, plus the living quarters are quite comfortable for a Drake ship, so it's great for long-range missions or simple tourism. The small cargo bay does make it difficult for carrying any cargo or vehicles though. The larger gear stowage does help make up for the small cargo storage, since you can hold about 4 SCU total between cargo storage and gear in the Rambler, or a bit more. The extra gun racks help as well, so it is a good ship for looting underground facilities or ruined places. There is a second seat in the Rambler for a passenger, and combined with the long-range fuel tanks, you can use the Rambler for rescuing or transporting other players or NPCs. You can make some money with the transport or rescue beacons that way too. You could also bring a friend with you on missions such as the underground facilities using the extra seat, extra gear stowage, and extra gun rack. In comparison to other starter ships, the Cutter series has decent living quarters with toilet shower that many starters don't have. It is longer range than most starter ships and has internal cargo to keep your cargo safe. There's also space for smaller ground vehicles, while only other starters like the Titan or Nomad can carry ground vehicles. Speed is slow and weapons are a bit on the weak side for a starter, but the price is cheap enough to afford. Some of the other starter ships have more cargo, better speed, or better weapons, but the price goes up a bit for those, and not all of them come with toilets or showers that might be needed in future gameplay, or can carry vehicles. All in all, I like the Cutter variants. The rough look of the ships with the pipes and things sticking out give the ship so much personality. Plus the tons of paints you can buy help give the ships more variation. They are small, so they fit very well in almost any hangar or outpost, and they are not very fragile. They are good all-purpose starter ships and aren't much more expensive than the cheapest starter packs. Just don't get into heavy combat with these ships unless you have no other option. Alright, so that's it for the Drake Cutter variants. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. You can use my referral code if you decide to jump in as Star Citizen and you'll get 5,000 extra in-game credits. Here's a big thank you to my current patrons. Please check out my Patreon membership to help me make more videos. All patrons and members will have their names listed at the end of my videos and get access to my Discord channel. So feel free to sign up and let me know what you'd like to see next. Okay, catch you all next time.